it's not a typical just presentation. We're actually doing it similar to, if you're familiar with Atlassian, it's going to be similar to ShipIt. We actually have something that we do at Addteq Fridays once a month. It's called Beer and Brag. So what we do is we have an hour set aside where our developers and anybody, really any of our employees who want to brag about something that they've created or any problems that they solved, they have the platform. So we're going to follow that format, and in addition to that, we want to make it a little bit more interactive. So the interactive part is that you guys get to vote. At the end of the presentations, you guys get to vote and tell us which presentation you think is the best. So I'd like to go ahead and introduce our first speaker. She's an Atlassian administrator by day, and at night, she's usually doing something crafty. I mean, at the age of 7, she won an international award for a painting. So without further ado, let me introduce Sneha Sheth.
Thanks, Lynn. Thanks, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. As Lynn mentioned, I work as an Atlassian admin at Addteq. I'm going to talk about interactive and dynamic spreadsheets for Confluence. So I have some demonstrations for you guys. So today we have teams spread across the globe. Everyone's working in different offices from different places, and there's a need for bridging the silos, being more productive, being more collaborative. Atlassian, serving this purpose very, very efficiently, has more than 30,000 users using Confluence today. So you see, it's a pretty big number. It's more than 30,000 customers using Confluence is a very, very big number here. Confluence, without any doubt, without any question, really can replace all your text editing applications. But when it comes specifically to calculating numbers, we are still relying on desktop applications and other applications like Google Sheets and other various methods. So the question really here is there an Excel or a spreadsheet equivalent in Confluence? And the answer is yes. We at Addteq introduced an add-on called Extendtable that is spreadsheets within Confluence. This makes spreadsheets using in Confluence really easy, along with leveraging the inbuilt features that Confluence offers. Extendtable supports imports from Microsoft Excel, and it also supports importing spreadsheets from Google Spreadsheets. So we put our thinking caps on and we were like, this is just the basic features we can offer. What else can we put to the add-on so that we really make it stand out and we really raise the bars high for ourselves? And that's when we tried to emulate a lot of features that Confluence offers out of the box. For example, Confluence offers versioning of pages. So whenever you have changes made to your pages, those are saved as different versions. Similarly, Extendtable macros also keeps versioning in mind. So when you have multiple users editing your Extendtable macro, those versions will be saved, as you can see an example here, and you can revert to any version at any point of time as need be. The Extendtable macro can also be exported into various formats like XLS and PDF. If you have external applications or any other in-house tools you would like to integrate with Extendtable, it does support REST API as well, so you can easily build a seamless configuration. Extendtable also ships out with some inbuilt templates, so you can use those templates for your number calculations within the Confluence environment. Additionally, you can also leverage the Confluence template feature where you can create your own templates using the Extendtable macro. And then, again, you can reuse those templates for future purposes. Think about what else would you need with spreadsheets. When you work with spreadsheets, you will definitely need multiple sheets in the single book you create. And Extendtable does have support for multiple sheets as well. So as you can see over here, I have a column called name. And then I'm going to add one more column called alter ego. Once I add that column and some content for all the rows that are already existing, I'm going to rename my first sheet to alias. Next, I'm going to add another sheet. For the content of the other sheet, I'm going to copy all the content of the first sheet, paste it to the other sheet, and then add an additional column called cities. And then I'm going to populate values again for that particular column. And finally, I'm going to rename my sheet to cities. So as you can see, it's pretty seamless to add additional sheets in Confluence within the Excellent Table macro on a single page. And you can add as many sheets as you would like. But hang on there. We don't stop our development there. We really wanted more, and we really wanted to be up to what Atlassian releases regularly. If everyone's aware, recently released the collaborative editing feature, and we wanted to be up to speed with that. Having said that, there are 2,200 add-ons on the Atlassian marketplace. So basically, these add-ons help you enhance the functionality of your Atlassian tools. And among these add-ons, Excellent Table is on the path to becoming the first add-on to support collaborative editing. And we are very, very excited about this. We are going to be the first ones to support collaborative editing within Confluence using our Excellent Table add-on. This feature is currently under implementation internally, but I have a sneak peek for everyone here to see how this feature is going to look like once we ship it out. So as you can see, I'm here logged in as a user called Greg. And whenever I log in and whatever cell I edit, it's going to be green in color. And now immediately you see I have another user with the initials S who has joined in to edit this particular sheet within the Excellent Table macro. As you can see, it's really easy to identify who is actually editing what part of the sheet. And it's pretty seamless to identify what changes were made on the fly. On the second side, I'm logged in as the user Sam, and it's showing me Greg as a different color. So here you can see two different logins and showing you two different users changing certain things on this particular sheet in the Excellent Table macro. As you can see, it's pretty seamless. It's very, very easy to identify on the fly who's making what changes. And you can save these as well. And as we mentioned, it saves versions as well. And we are pretty excited about this feature. We just think it's a really cool feature here. So the question for now is, when are we really shipping this feature out? Right now, as I said, we are in the implementation phase, but we plan to ship this out sometime during September this year. And in the meantime, you guys can still download Excellent Table from the marketplace. It is compatible with the latest version of Confluence with a lot of features like searches. It supports more than 400 formulas, and you can also share searches with everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Neha. So our next presenter, he's a He's a young lad, but he's somehow found time to live in New Zealand and Australia. He doesn't have the accent though, but please welcome Dan Grace, our business development manager.
Hey guys, how you doing? Sorry for the lack of an accent. So today I'm going to talk about Unstoppable, which is a powerful add-on for both Jira and Confluence. So if you heard the keynote, the opening address this morning, you know that the way that teams are getting work done these days is changing. With the advent of Agile and the growth of DevOps, the way that teams are working not only within themselves but also interdependently, it's changing these days. And what Addteq does is we have a lot of clients that we help implement these new ways of getting work done. So through Confluence, things like requirements gathering, collaborating, what Sneha just showed, collaborative editing, making sure that everybody on the team is on the same page before the work actually gets started. With tools like Jira, we're working off of Agile boards, be it Scrum or Kanban. We're physically watching our issues go from triage to in progress to done. And even with backlogs, we're using ranking backlogs to know which issues have the top priority, literally what sits at the top of this list. And in an Agile methodology, you know that as a developer, you're meant to be swarming on these issues and picking from the top. So over the years, we were very proud of some of the work we were doing with our clients. We said, this is great. We're improving the way the work's getting done. It's getting done faster. And then about 2 years ago, we had a large client of ours turn to us and say, yeah, this is all fine and well. What if I can't see any of this? I said, that's a really good question. So we started doing some research, and there were some visually impaired users in a few of our clients. And so we started looking into ways to overcome this challenge. So how do you include visually impaired users in these new ways of getting work done? Turns out there's two roads you can go down when trying to make software compatible for the visually impaired. You can use a screen reader, or you can use Braille displays. We did some very extensive research and found that screen reading would be the best way to go. So what a screen reader does very briefly, uses a text-to-speech engine, locates where you are on the page, and then converts the text on the page in your browser to audio that can be heard through your speakers or headphones. So we decided to use JAWS. It was originally made for Windows, but it is compatible with all operating systems. And this brings us to Unstoppable. So what Unstoppable is a plugin for both Jira and Confluence, and what it does is open the doors to those who can't see this work that's being done. It allows them to utilize these tools and opens the door for them to participate in an Agile and a DevOps environment. So we'll quickly look at Unstoppable for Jira. Let's cross our fingers this audio actually works. So what we're hopefully going to see is that as a visually impaired user, you can still navigate an Agile board in Jira.
Heading list dialog. Headings list view. Jira Unstop TSB board sample sprint 2:1. TSB-10:2. Enter. Heading level 2 TSB-10. TSB-10 heading level 2. Tab. Swim lane for parent child TSB-10 as a developer. I can update story and task status with drag and drop. Tab. To do. Has one issue. Tab. Parent task TSB-10 has one issues. Sub-task. TSB-11 update task status by dragging and dropping from column to column. Try dragging this task to quote unquote.
These are the other supported features for Unstoppable. So some of the most powerful ones, things like creating an issue, creating sprints, and then right there next to the bottom is ranking issues in a backlog. So you don't have to be able to see where issues are on a your hotkeys. You can manage your own hotkeys, and that'll let you know where you can go on the page. It'll let you know where you are on the page and how to get to the next portion of the page, and then what actions you can take. So if you'd like to select that issue and move it to the next column in the Kanban board, you can achieve that through Unstoppable. These are the other supported features for Unstoppable. So some of the most powerful ones, things like creating an issue, creating sprints, and then right there next to the bottom is ranking issues in a backlog. So you don't have to be able to see where issues are in a backlog. JAWS will let you know this is issue number 1, this is issue number 2. So this is the priority by which you're supposed to be getting these chores done. In Confluence, obviously I'd mentioned at the outset of this that you need to be able to participate in requirements gathering and collaboration both before, during, and after project completion for things like retrospectives.
Heading list dialog. Headings list view. Search issue in Jira 1, 4 of 6. To move to items, use the arrow keys. Steps to do the search 3. Write a comment 6. Steps to do the search issue in Jira 1.
The other supported features in Confluence, page creation from templates. So if you have templated projects and you know that you're going to start a development project, for example, you require items XYZ to be inputted into these fields before you can get to work on this project. Your visually impaired users will know exactly what information is required before you can get started. You can also traverse the sidebar, and as I mentioned, you can add, edit, delete comments. So you're perfectly in sync with the rest of your team members. So Unstoppable for Government, it's a very common use case that a lot of agencies require 508 compliance to utilize any application, especially across an organization. Out of the box, Jira and Confluence at the moment are not 508 compliant. Through the use of third-party add-ons, specifically for at least Jira and Confluence for now, you can get a lot closer to achieving that compliancy. The good thing is the development team that wrote the whole plugin, we sit right up in Princeton, New Jersey. If there's any questions about what's coming next or need some help with anything, pick up the phone. We're right up the block. And just like every other Atlassian add-on, easily downloadable from the marketplace. It does require JAWS, but very easily installed. You could start it for free. So make sure to vote for Unstoppable. And that's it. Thanks, guys.
So our next speaker is Addteq CTO. He is, I trust him with everything related to IT minus Google Maps. For some reason, he's very bad with directions, which is kind of funny. But please welcome Himanshu Chetri.
So before we get into chat ops, we need to talk about bots. We really live in the age of bots. And every day in the news, you keep hearing about a lot of different kinds of bots. They are even making the way to our homes right now with sort of voice assistants like Amazon Echo and Google Assistant. In fact, the next talk following mine will have something along those lines. But one of the types of bots that are really useful, especially in the workplace, are chatbots. And that's something we'll be looking into today. So within the workplace, group chat tools, especially HipChat, do a really great job of being that unifying platform for collaboration. Rather than having sort of siloed communication over email, you can have a chat room for your team, for your project, or even for some kind of incidents that are occurring within your organization. And then when you have integration with various tools, it makes it even more powerful because you can add rich context to the conversations you're having within your team. But in the DevOps landscape, there is a particular problem that we should identify. It's both a problem as well as an opportunity. So this diagram looks a bit jumbled up, and in a way it's intended to be so, because what this diagram is showing is a cross-section of all of the different tools, technologies, and platforms that a typical team deals with these days. So whether you're on the development side of things, on the IT side of things, or in an ideal DevOps world, across the spectrum, you're dealing with a lot of things. You might be dealing with your own internal infrastructure. You might be dealing with cloud infrastructure. You might be using a mix of all kinds of different data stores, all kinds of different web servers. And these days, things are again moving in the direction of containers. So you have all of these different tools and technologies at your disposal, which is great because it gives you the flexibility to innovate and to ship faster and more reliably. But the problem is when you start integrating all of these different things together. So there are integrations with group chat tools like HipChat. So for example, you can say that your monitoring tool can send notifications to HipChat, and then you can take actions based on that. But once you get through those initial levels of integrations, you want to start building workflows. You want to build workflows that can span across all of these different platforms. And you also want these workflows to be automated as well as in a more self-service type of model. So that's the ideal state we want to get to. And a promise towards that kind of solution is ChatOps. And when you try to look up what ChatOps means, you'll find a lot of different kinds of definitions out there. The one we really like is from a blog post that Atlassian put out, I think, sometime last year. And the way they describe ChatOps is great. What they say ChatOps is that it is a collaboration model. It's a common workflow where you unify people, processes, tools, and automation into a unified workflow. And you can use bots to help you with that. So your bots can serve as the means to interface with the automation and the integration that you can build in your environment. But for sort of more mature DevOps automation, we want to build that cross-platform, cross-tool type of integration. And there is a tool out there called IFTTT. It's an online service that lets you unify different platforms and build automation workflows. But on the DevOps side, there is an open source project called Stackstorm that lets you build out powerful DevOps workflows across all of these different things that we talked about. And once you build your automation workflows, you will still use bots at the end of the day to introduce these automation in your environment. Now, ChatOps itself has a lot of use cases. Right? And in this short talk, we might not be able to look at a whole lot of them, but I'll talk about a very practical, real-world example of how ChatOps made the lives easier for folks within Addteq. So Addteq being an Atlassian expert and partner, we do a lot of work with different Atlassian tools. And we also develop a lot of add-ons for different Atlassian tools, like some of the other speakers talked about. So the problem we faced was that we constantly had requests that, hey, I need a test environment of Jira, or I need a test environment of Confluence. And many of the times, you also need these environments with specific types of databases. So traditionally, you would put in a request through Service Desk, and then the IT team will spin up some VMs, and then we move to the cloud. Then we started spinning up some cloud-based instances. And we use different kinds of automation to speed up the process. But at the end of the day, there was still a process involved, and there was the teams needed the bandwidth to process these requests. And even though they were using automation, they still had to be the person to push that button to run the automation and then to service the internal users. But we wanted to remove that barrier. We wanted to create a seamless sort of self-service model. And the way we did that was that within our company HipChat room, we have a bot. We fondly call it BroBot. And we can ask robot to spin up an instance of Jira or Confluence for us. And we can ask it to even use a particular type of database like MySQL or Postgres. So day-to-day, on a day-to-day basis, we have everyone in the organization, whether they belong to the dev side, where they need to test something with a particular version of the tools, or on the support side, when we get a customer bug report, they try to reproduce the bug report by spinning up these environments. And then even on the sales and marketing side, if they want to do a demo, if they want an environment to try out some of the new features, then they ask robot to provide an environment for them. And behind the scenes, it's using StackStorm as that orchestration layer. And we use Docker containers. So we spin up containers for the database. We spin up containers for the Atlassian tools. We use Rancher as an orchestration platform. So it sounds like there's some sort of complicated stuff behind the scene. And the idea is that the end user should not need to deal with that complicated automation behind the scene. For them, they just go into the chat room and they chat with our bot. They ask the bot to spin up these environments for them. And that's a pattern that we highly encourage you to think about. So when you want to get into chatbots and chat ops, it's always good to be able to provide these kinds of self-service automation for your end users, but hide all of the complexity. Make them feel like they're talking to a person in their team who's always ready to do their willing and service them. And we have a lot more use cases that we use chat ops for, but we thought it'd be interesting to share one of our major use cases that has been a really great success internally. And in terms of the improvements, I think a lot of the other talks as well talked about the fact that we are not happy, we are not like satisfied with what we already have. We want to go beyond what we currently do. And on the chat ops side of things, we want to use NLP. So right now, you need to converse with robot with specific type of commands. You have to say that, hey, give me an instance of Jira. We say stack provision. It almost feels a bit like the command line. So we want to move away from that. We want to use natural human language. Now we want to be able to converse with robot like yet another human. So you should be able to use sort of natural language like, hey, robot, can you spin me up an instance of Jira? And then robot might ask you, what kind of database would you like? So that's next in the horizon for what we're trying to do with chat ops. And that'll be it. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce Sukhbir Dhillon.
Or they use the web-based tool like Atlassian's to get to where they want to get. These web-based tools are really awesome, but you need an expert to run these, who can make sure the environment is always running, who can make sure the environment is always upgraded, who can make sure the system is not overloaded, and so on and so forth. So Code Factory is our created around it to help curve those problems. So right now we have Code Factory on the cloud, and we are also packaging it so people can run it internally inside their environment. And what can Code Factory offer them? So you can log into Code Factory. It can give you self-serve that, oh, I want to create this environment. And that not necessarily Jira. You can create Jira, Confluence, GitHub, and any other tools you may need which are web-based. So web-based is the main requirement. Automated DRs. You want, if you're setting up your test environment, you don't really care if the environment gets destroyed someday. But if you're creating a production environment and you want the environment to be in such a way that you set up a couple of clicks, and if something to a data center one location, it should create the environment somewhere else within a few minutes. System load, I talked about that already. So you want one single location where you see the aggregation of all your system loads. So you can change the values of CPU, change the values of memory, and get back to the optimal speed where you want it to be. development environments, many times the Jira admins who are changing a workflow, they get a little nervous changing a workflow live in production. Nobody wants to change live in production. I tried doing it once 15 years ago, and I got yelled at. So you want to be able to clone production environment by just doing a single click, and then make your modifications if everybody feels happy, and then you can go and modify, deploy that to production. So we created, not only we created Code Factory to be a web-based system, we also made sure that you should be able to do all those same things from your mobile device. So here, I'm logged into Code Factory. I'm choosing between Jira, Confluence, Bitbucket, Rancher, SonarQube. These are the options available to me. So let me select Jira 50 users, Bamboo, as well as SonarQube. And all I gotta do is click on Create Assembly. And I have these environments ready for me. Yes. So this is the video from the production environment, so anybody can come on there. But when you are doing that in your private cloud, you don't have those pricing applicable in your situation. So here, after I do that, I clicked on the link, and I'm logged into Bitbucket on Code Factory. It's as simple as that. So we can take our phone out, we can create an environment, we are ready to go. But this is the modern age. People are getting even more lazier than that. At least I am. So when I was a kid, I always used to say, I always wanted to do something where I don't want to get up and turn on the light. Well, these days things are like those are available. You can wake up in the morning and ask Alexa to make coffee for you. So let's make coffee today. I'm just kidding. So let me take a couple of steps back. So as of today, there are 4 billion connected devices in use, which includes your mobile device, which includes Amazon Home, Google Home, and all those, along with your bulbs, your speakers, and everything else. And by 2020, that number is going to go to 20 billion devices. So as more devices are getting connected and user need is growing, at some point, user may want to do all these things which are demonstrated for Code Factory by just talking to a device. So let me demonstrate to you how. Let me start by asking the weather first. Alexa, how's the weather today?
In Princeton, it's 84 degrees with partly sunny skies. Today, you can look for some sun and thunderstorms, with a high of 87 degrees and a low of 61 degrees.
Alexa, ask Bill Meister the status of my last build. Alexa, ask Bill Meister status of my last build.
Last build demo N15 and was successful was triggered because of manual run by admin on Wednesday, 21st of June, 1:49 p.m.
So that's the status of my last build. Well, I'm more lazier than that. I want to kick off a new build. Alexa, ask Bill Meister to trigger a new build.
New manual build 16 has been triggered on build plan demo N16.
Thank you.